What about now? I hope to gosh you guys can see this. I'm gonna start crying if this doesn't work. I'm really, really, really upset that this is taking so long. Um, I'm super sorry. I don't know why it's not working. Wait, I see something. Ah, excellent. Ah, finally. I'm so sorry. Um, that was really frustrating. I did a little test on Friday and it worked fine then, and I don't know why it didn't work this time, but I've got it figured out and I am very sorry for starting late. But welcome! Welcome to the Dashboarding with Notebooks event. Finally, today has not been my day. And I want to start by apologizing, A, for starting late, and B, if you got the link that didn't work, I'm sorry about that. The link should work now. Yeah, welcome. I was keeping an eye on the chat while I was wrestling with my streaming service. And we got people from all over, so I'm delighted you guys could make it. Oh, sorry. I'm really like all choked up now. I was just like sitting here being like, no, people are waiting. Dashboarding with Notebooks, day 1. So my idea is to go through the activity as if I were doing the I don't necessarily want to call it an assignment, but sort of like working through today. And oh wait, can you not hear me? Oh, people are saying no worries. Okay, people can hear me. Whew. Excellent. I'm hoping for it to take like 30-ish minutes, more or less, and then have time for additional questions at the end. So I'm just going to follow the timeline. I'm going to read the notebook. I'm going to pick a data set, and then I'm going to spend some time going through the questions and sort of thinking about, what I should put in my notebook that I'm going to be working on, and then going to do some visualizations. And I saw some questions in the chat about whether you could use Python or R. You can use either. I'm probably going to use R today just because I personally really like R for visualizations and this sort of thing. But if you want to use Python, feel free. Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, Bokeh, Altair, whatever you're enjoying. Great, and thanks for letting me know that my voice is good. I probably sound a little bit verklempt. All right, so thinking about what you need to dashboard. Question about subtitles. There will be automatic captions. Sorry about that once it's done. I'm not reading from a script, so I can't make them ahead of time because I don't know what questions you guys are going to ask. And yes, the recording will be available after. And if you're watching the recording, hi. So not everything needs to be in a dashboard. Dashboards tend to be a little bit more work to set up than just a static visualization. You need to sort of like set up your pipeline to make sure that it actually runs, and there will be we're going to be talking about some testing and validation on day 5. So it's much more work to set up a dashboard than just to make a visualization. Link for the notebook. I believe some people pasted it earlier, and I'll try and approve those links as they come in. And we are going to be doing a scheduled dashboard. So a scheduled dashboard, great question, Shoria, is a dashboard is an interactive visualization that people are checking in on. So it's something that people are going to look at multiple times. It might be something that, say, you're sending to your boss so that they can approve some of these links so that they can check up on something. So something we monitor at Kaggle is sort of number of users, so how many people are coming to the site, what sort of things are they looking at, what are they doing, are they like leaving really quickly? That suggests that we're doing something that's not answering the need that they have, and how can we work on that better. So because that's something that we're monitoring over time, a dashboard would make sense for that, so that we can, sort of check in and make sure things are going good. You are welcome to use Tableau. I'm not going to be walking through Tableau, but a lot of what we're talking about will apply to Tableau as well, and that was for Ravi. And sometimes dashboards can be based on streaming dashboards. Oh, someone had a question if you could show a dashboard. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to do it in kernels. So there are some really good ones, and I had a list all put together, and I was going to get like a bunch of links put together and like tabs open. And then my streaming service didn't work. So that was, nope. Dashboards is what I was looking for. And there are a lot of really nice ones on Kaggle. And I think this actually one is one in R Markdown using the dashboard R package. So this is a nice interactive dashboard. This is not something you would probably usually do, like survival on Titanic, because you're not going to be double checking, you know, once a week how many people survived on the Titanic, because it's always going to be the same. But you can see that it's got some interactive elements. I can sort of ask questions about it. There's some information up here that I can look at a glance, and then some other things that I can check out. And this is the sort of thing that we'll be doing. It probably won't be quite as slick as this. But if you're interested in using this library, you're of course welcome to. And this is just interactive dashboards in R by user Philip PSP. So that's sort of an example. And dashboards can also be based on streaming data. So can we do this in assembly? I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but you shouldn't. The streaming data is something where the data is sort of coming in constantly and you're constantly updating it. And we're instead going to do here something that's going to work best for batch data. So something where like once a day you get data and you can upload it. And you can update your dashboard when you get the new data to sort of see what's changed and monitor, basically. Dashboards are for monitoring things. And I've put together a list of data sets that we at Kaggle update daily. And I'm going to pick one of these. A lot of these are data that's released by municipalities in the US. So a city will release open data daily, and then we sort of keep a mirror that we update daily. So you can see there's some stuff from New York, there's some stuff from San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, Seattle, Chicago. The procurement notices data set is for the World Bank, so there is some more world data in there. I really tried to get some stuff from, you know, Africa or Asia or Oceania, and we couldn't find as much. So this is not an intentional omission. We weren't just like, oh, the US is the only place. And then there's also the meta Kaggle data set, which is data about Kaggle, and we update that daily as well. So, and any of these will work well for dashboarding, and just sort of the sort of data that you are interested in. And that was to Sudhansu's question. Mark says some data sets show a 404 error. Oh, All right, I will look into that later. Let me make a note of that just to double check that I've gotten all those links correct. And those are the titles of the data sets on the platform as well. 404 error on dataset links. All right. Right, so these are all batch data, and you don't have to do the sort of data pipeline yourself. Sen says, can the dashboards be hosted on websites other than Kaggle? Yes, but I won't be walking through step-by-step how to do that. So once you have picked your data set, and we're gonna do that, Sarub says, can we use dashboard for time series analysis for live data input? I wouldn't use Kaggle for live data, just because every time you update the dashboard, you're going to be running the whole notebook top to bottom, and that's going to take a while. So you're always going to have a bit of a lag. I would use instead data that's updated at most once a day would be my personal choice. And Surenda says, is it okay to use our data for the dashboarding? Yes, of course. Please feel free. And so whatever data set you're picking, and if it's your data set, you have sort of a heads up on this. You need to pick which fields are actually going to be useful for dashboarding. So when you're doing initial exploratory data analysis, or EDA, on the data set, you are probably going to make a lot of different visualizations. You're going to look at a whole bunch of different things. You might end up with, I don't know, maybe even up to like 100 visualizations. I know that's a lot, but if you have a really large data set that you're just sort of getting used to and starting to understand, like if you're starting a competition, then you're probably going to be doing a lot of visualization. And you don't need all of your exploratory data analysis to go into a dashboard, because not everything that you're looking at you're going to want to monitor over time. So if someone is giving you the data, which is what would happen in a professional setting, someone will probably be like, oh, hey, there's this table in our database and we want to know if, let's say it's a e-commerce website and they want to know if any particular products are suddenly much more popular and running low on inventory, so they need to reorder that. So you're doing sort of a anomaly detection on stock levels. Then they've told you what's important and you don't have to sort of figure that out. But in this case, you do have to do some figuring out. So some questions that you can ask when you're looking at a data set to figure out which fields are going to be the most important to highlight in a dashboard so that somebody can monitor them would be, what information is changing relatively quickly? So something that's updated once a year, you probably don't need a dashboard for. You probably can do like an annual report and you just put your charts in the report and pass it off there. But if something's changing, every day, like weather conditions, and maybe you sell ice cream and you want to know if it's really hot because then people are going to buy more ice cream, then that makes sense to put in a dashboard because it's going to affect your choices and your business choices. What information is really important to your mission? And if you're using one of these data sets, you might imagine, for the Seattle use of force, you might imagine that you are civic advocacy group, some sort of NGO or nonprofit, and you're monitoring this and you want to raise the alarm if there's excessive use of force. So that's the information that's going to be most important, and you might be interested in number of incidents. Bala says, is the dashboard platform independent, like mobile tablet friendly? So we're going to be doing it in kernels. I think the new kernel viewer is much more mobile friendly than the old kernel viewer, which was awful. I don't mean to throw shade on the engineers, but I do a lot of stuff from my phone, and it was not delightful. But it's much better now. So yes-ish. So thinking about what information is most important. So even if this is changing relatively slowly, maybe this is something that updates weekly, if it's the thing that's most important, you're probably going to want to have it front and center. So in this example, even though maybe the number of passengers wasn't going to change, it's something that they have front and center because they think it's going to be important. And again, this is sort of a toy dashboard. You wouldn't build a nice shiny dashboard for something that's going to be changing, that's not ever going to change. Oop, back here. Question, do we need to create two separate kernels to use R and Python for the same data set? Yes, unless you use something like Reticulate, or I think it's Py2R. So there are packages that allow you to use one language from the other language. Elfish says, you recommend not to use live data, but we should pick data that is changing more frequently. Are we going to do that on Kaggle, or are we going to do this elsewhere in the future? So I'm thinking data that's changing about daily is my target here. I'm not seeing a link to the notebook. People have posted if you scroll up a little bit. Michael says, can we make a particular cell to run while the data is updated rather than running the entire notebook? Unfortunately not, because of the way that we run kernels, that's not possible. You might be able to do that on another platform, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of, not in a notebook. Maybe Interact. I'm not super familiar with the Interact ecosystem. That might be possible there, but my gut instinct is not in a notebook. I would use a script for that. Sam says, can dashboards be downloaded in offline portable format like SVG? You can save the particular figures out of that, yeah. A kernel. Oh, sorry. A kernel is our coding environment is called kernels. So this is, let's look at the code. So this is in our markdown script, and we say that this is in a kernel. And kernels can also be notebooks. Is it only Matplotlib and Seaboard for dashboarding or something else? We will talk about that tomorrow. But good question. So what's changing daily or hourly? What's really important for your mission? What's going to affect the choices that you need to make? Usually people are looking at dashboards when they have a question that they need to answer, when they have a decision that they need to make. And you want to make sure that the information that's most relevant at that point is in the dashboard, so people don't email you and ask you for additional plots. Basically, that's what dashboards are for. Dashboards are so that people don't email you and ask you for the same plot with a different axis or a slightly different chart than the one that you gave them, or you're not emailing them the same notebook every week. Not saying I've done that, but certainly somebody might, somebody might send somebody an email with the same notebook every week. So things that are going to affect choices. So I gave the weather example earlier. And you might actually need to pull in a second data set if there's something very relevant in a different data set that you want to highlight. And then finally, what changes have you made? So things may be changing relatively quickly that you're not changing. So in Kaggle example, something that really affects sort of the number of people that use Kaggle is the school year. So, a lot of people use Kaggle for coursework and for finding data sets for schoolwork. So that's something that's important to us is, when does school let out? But that's not a change that we make. But changes that we might make would be like the new notebook viewer. Are people using it? Are they looking at it? Are they leaving immediately? Or are they sort of sticking around for a little bit? And does that change based on whether they have the new notebook viewer or the old notebook viewer? If we were doing some sort of A/B testing. So that's something that we would also want to track in a dashboard. And I missed some questions. For using it in Office, are kernels safe from a data security point of view? It depends. I wouldn't use it for sensitive data. I definitely wouldn't use it for HIPAA data. I saw somebody asked about that. Do not put HIPAA data on the Kaggle site, please. We don't have that level of security. We are not HIPAA compliant. Don't do it. I wouldn't put credit card numbers in a Kaggle data set right now. At some point, I think we're going to have the capacity to sort of support that enterprise use case, in the future, crystal ball, but not right now. So just be, judicious. And you can create your own kernel now, or you can follow along as you like. And yes, it is recorded. Elfish, not hippo, HIPAA, HIPPA, basically health data. So that's the sort of information that you want to think about when you are putting together your dashboard. And then the thing that I want you to do at this point is pick a data set, look at it, imagine that you are producing this data set or using this data set for some reason. What are the sort of questions you're going to want to answer? And then start a kernel. So a kernel is just a notebook or a script using the kernel environment. So this notebook is in a kernel. Then make 2 quick visualizations. And somebody asked if I was going to use ggplot, and I am absolutely going to use ggplot. Somebody asked if I could use a notebook for Java. Not on Kaggle. I believe Jupyter does have a Java kernel. Kernel being the other use of the word kernel. I know there's a lot of things called kernel. And someone asked if I'm going to give a demo, and the answer is yes. So I have to pick a data set. And I think I haven't actually picked one. I do live in Seattle, so I'm sort of thinking maybe Seattle might be a good place. And actually, let's use the use of force data set. Somebody said Seaborn. Oh, yes. So I see. That does give a 404, doesn't it? Huh? All right. There we go. It's a real data set that exists, please. For real. Oh, I'm now just seeing your comments. Oh, interesting. So it's not the URL. The URL is correct. It's that the data set isn't available. Well, let's use something else then, huh? And I saw some people say procurement, so let's try procurement. Whoop. Hopefully that one doesn't 404. Okay, there we go. So let's start by reading the overview. Dataset includes procurement tender notices for World Bank financed projects. For the official procurement notices API, go to the API. Dataset is hosted by the World Bank, which is a bank that gives, loans throughout the world. From Socrata. And I don't actually know what a procurement tender notice is, so let's look that up. Let's see. What is the difference between tender and procurement? That seems relevant. Procurement, send you a massive request. This is not helpful. I'm gonna go back. Request for tender. Former structured invitation to suppliers to submit a bid to supply products or services. In the public sector, an official fee is needed to fortify and secure the tender bid engagement win/win documents. Such a process may be required and determined in detail by law to ensure blah blah blah. Wow, that is a tough nut to crack. So they are looking for question mark. Sorry, let me scroll down a little bit. So this is for bids. So they're notices of invitations for bids on projects, it looks like. Construction of a block of 2 rooms for class, equipped with EP de Guret in Brandake. It must be like a city or a town or something in Cameroon. Okay, so it looks like these are contracts that they have out. So this is a description of the bid. And then there are different types of things that can be procured. And then there is the deadline for the bids. Looks like a lot of them are, so some of them are coming up, but a lot of them were from this year. And then there is information on the countries and the sector of the bid. And it looks like there are multiple pieces of information in this field. Okay. And then we have some other things. We have the project ID. We have the date when it was published. We have the notice type. We have the website URL, and then we have the ID. And it looks like that's it that's in this particular data set. So let's start a new kernel and look at it. So the things that I think would be interesting here would be upcoming deadlines. Oh, and I actually want this in R. Yeah, so I think it would be interesting to track sort of the deadlines over time, and then the point at which it was put out. The call was put out for bids. So get rid of that. I'm gonna import some things. Library, tidyverse. There's some dates, so I'm probably going to want the LubriDate library to work with the date information. Let's see. Oh, and we have some information here. Sorry, I was looking at this and not checking the chat. The national government database is divided into 2 sections: notice of procurement, tender calls to purchase goods or services. The calls will have relatively short deadlines and require immediate action. So I think the things that would be really interesting and useful here would be number of calls currently out. So that might be something that's important to sort of have at a top level thing. Distribution by country. Yeah, that could be interesting. Country, and then I know I said 2, but this won't actually be a visualization. This will just be what's the word I'm looking for? This will just be like a cell with a number in it. And then I think something else that would be interested would be distribution of due dates. And the reason that I think this would be useful is if I'm working at the World Bank, I'm going to want to just sort of quickly look and see if I'm going to have like a bunch of bids coming in all at once because I've got a bunch of due dates. So I'm imagining that if we plot this for today, we're actually going to see that there's not a whole bunch for the next like 2 weeks or so because there's the Christmas holiday, which is coming up, which is pretty important in the Western world. And also New Year's, which again is usually a holiday in the Western world. Yeah, so I think that's gonna be some good things. Question, what is distribution? So distribution, in this figure, I'm going to have number of bids on the y-axis, and then on the x-axis, I'm going to have the date. Oh, you're just making fun of my spelling. Listen, I'm dyslexic, and now they're called dist. There we go. Will I use Python after this? Probably not today because I got started later, but I might use it tomorrow. We'll see. I do mean distribution. Thank you, Ade. Spelling is hard, y'all. Oh, and actually I should probably read in the data as well. And it was in a CSV, if I remember correctly, called procurement notices. All right. And I'm just going to call it proc data. Read CSV underscore CSV so that it is a tibble. And it's in the input directory, and then it is under procurement notices. So let's read in the data as well. Excellent. And I'm going to hide the output of this cell so you won't see this every time you run the notebook. Oh, and I should give it a title. Daniel says you should try counting. Counting and spelling, my two nemesis, which unfortunately I'm in a job that involves both math and writing, so. World Bank EDA for dashboard. Awesome. So excellent. And you can see if I'm looking here, I can see both the publication date and the deadline date were correctly parsed as date times. So I don't need to deal with that. Why not read .csv? So that is a regular data frame. Read underscore CSV is called a tibble. And among other things, it doesn't need row names, so it's a little bit more memory and efficient. And yes, the Sylvia says our syntax is very similar to Python pandas. Yes, pandas is actually sort of a port of R into Python, much like matplotlib is a port of MATLAB plotting into Python. All right, so, and I'm just gonna look at the head of this. Whoop. There we go. Just so I can see the names really quickly. So the number of calls currently out are going to be, I'm going to want to filter, and I want to get rows where the, what was it, due date, publication date, deadline date is, so some of these are NA. And it looks like the contract reward. Okay, so these have been published. They were published 2 days ago on Friday, but they don't have a deadline date. So I think NA might mean currently open as well. Zach says with read underscore CSV, you don't have to specify strings as characters as false. True. I mean, there's just it's an improvement on the base data frame, much like data.table is. They were developed to sort of solve the same set of problems. They just do it in different ways. Note to self, cells with NA deadline are currently out. So I want ones. Oh, okay. So I'm also looking at this, and the names need to be cleaned. So janitor, there we go. And I'm just going to quickly use the clean names function from the janitor package to do that. And then when we look at the head of the data set, we should see, yeah, so you can see now there's no spaces there. They're all lowercase, and there's underscores instead of spaces. So that'll just make my life a little bit easier. So I'm looking for things where the deadline underscore date, is greater than today. And I'm actually going to look at the head of that just to make sure that I did that correctly. Question that this was going to run about an hour. That's sort of my my aim. And these are all after today, so that is good. And then we just want the count. So right now we have 215 calls currently open. Yes, you can watch it on your own time. All right. And in the interest of no, I am going to do it. I was going to say I'm not going to do the I think this will work. I think I can do a logical OR in here, and I think that will work as well. Deadline, date, and I can use the is NA function, and that will also work. There we go. So this gives us the count of cells where the deadline date is greater today, or it's NA, so there is no date. Yeah. Oh, question about this. This is a pipe. It's from the Migrator package, which is part of this tidyverse meta package I included up here. And what it does is it takes the output of whatever is to the right and passes it on to the left. So if you're familiar with Python, where you can do something like I don't know, where you can sort of like chain things together with dots. It's the same sort of thing. What is the length of the recording? I'm probably going to try and wrap it up by 10 my time, so about 50-ish minutes today, because I got started a little late. But yes, and it's called a pipe. All right, and now we're going to look at the distribution by country, and for this I'm probably going to do, let me add a couple cells down here so you can see a little bit more clearly. I think a chloropleth would make sense here. I'm gonna just quickly help Google. There we go, chloropleth. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. 4 to 5 function. We need to do something with map tools. ggplot, polygon, chord equals. Fidris will also do it, but it looks like that is for doing the pretty colors. Let me zoom in here. Let's see. ggplot, polygon, chord equals. So this plot.data, it looks like, oop, I'm gonna sneeze, sorry. Excuse me. This might be something I add a little bit later, but no, I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it now. Okay. So I'm gonna need some additional things. Plot data, pets, FSA. Okay, so actually this might be built in. This might be built in. Thank you for everyone who's saying bless you. World map. Close enough. ggplot. There we go. Map country data. Map bubbles. All right, let's try this. So I'm just trying to do something a little bit quick and dirty here. It doesn't matter a whole bunch how pretty it is because we're going to go back and pretty it up later. And this is definitely not going to work as red. Oh, they've lined up their assignment operators. That's not wrong. It's just a little bit like, oh, a little bit weird. Oh, hey, I think this is I think this is a Kaggle data set. So our CSV, we already have that in. Oh, also, and we do want to have current calls as well. So I'm going to save this as a data frame, and I'm actually going to remove the isNA because there's a possibility that that's going to include things that aren't actually current calls. Someone says Folium. If it's a live video, there's no pressure. I'll use GeoPandas. Folium and R is compatible. I'm not sure. Which Python library is good for dashboarding? Any visualization you like. I'd probably recommend something that you can make interactive. So like Altair, Bokeh, Plotly, something like that. Flex dashboard, somebody says. I've heard good things about that as well. All right. Yeah, so I'm also going to want the count by countries. And this function, it looks like, is from this world map. So I'm going to get rid of that. That's just a little data munging that we can do ourselves. Check out the head of this real quickly. And then it's in... so let's use country code. And I'm actually going to use... so I'm going to use some tidyverse functions for this. So I'm going to take current calls, and then I'm going to group by, and this is just like group by in SQL, if you're familiar with that. Country code, and then I'm going to, I think it's called tally. Yeah, there we go. So now we have the count of the number of calls from each country. Calls by country, and this has already taken way more than 5 minutes. Data, oh sorry, not munching, munging, M-U-N-G-I-N-G, just to sort of like, you know, play around with it. Excellent. I'm actually not going to comment that calls by country because it's obvious from the variable name. All right. I'm going to call this country code, maybe? I don't know that this is going to work. I'm going to try running this in another cell. Could not find function join country. Oh. So it's loading the package. 46 codes from your data failed to match with the country code in the map. 243 country codes from the map weren't represented in your data. 0 codes successfully matched. So maybe instead of... Let's look at the documentation for join country data to map really quick. join code. How countries are referenced, options, ISO 2, ISO 3. I think actually it is ISO 2 that we are using. So let's try that, which is the international standard, whatever code that is too long. There we go. So now I'm actually saying to match on the correct thing. So that should work. And then, so I'm going to move this back down into this cell, because now that I know that it works, and then create a map, and then, interesting, this thing where everything's lined up, it's very pretty, a little bit weird. Warning message, unable to open connection to X11 display, error in .external, unable to start a device. All right, do I need... So this might be something that's has to do with our world map and Jupyter not working together well. Let's check that out. Jupyter on Markdown. Sorry, this is a little bit small. Let me make it bigger. Animation using R in our world map. Library our world map, data frames. Join country data. So it's the way that devices are handled in base R as opposed to somebody asked if it's possible to share Python code later for same exercise. Yeah, I'm sure someone is going to do something similar with Python as well. X11 is a Unix terminal. What if I just get rid of that? That still doesn't work. Traceback seems not to exist in your data. Oh, okay, that is a good error. That's one I like. I think it's called N actually. Hey, it worked. Do you think something like inline command to generate visits inside would work? Possibly. I think it's just that I was creating a device I didn't need to create, and if I just created an HTML widget like a normal person, it would work fine. Question about form in Python. You're welcome to chat on the notebook. I might do tomorrow in Python. We'll see. For this type of visualization and analytics, I just really like R. It's nice, man. All right. So that is the distribution by country. And I'm actually going to make the name slightly more... Ooh. Turned on caps lock, slightly more transparent so that it's not just N and then it says number of bits. But again, I'm not doing anything super super fancy pantsy here, just quick and dirty. And then I can get rid of this and I can get rid of this. So we've got two of the three things. We got the number of cells that are calls, that are currently out. So it's about 1100. And then we have the visualization of where the current calls are. So lots in India, quite a few in China, Pakistan, I think. My geography is okay. Quite a bit in Africa as well. A little bit in South America and some in Central America. And also Indonesia and surrounding countries. Well, that one looks like it's yellow. It's a little bit hard to see. All right. Question, is the map you made interactive? Nope. If it were interactive, I wouldn't have to guess countries. I could just mouse over and it would say. But interactive is tomorrow. And then the final thing that we were going to do was the distribution of the number of due dates. So I am going to do something similar to what I did up here. So I'm going to take data and then I'm going to group by, let me quickly look up the one thing about using pipes is that you can't use tab complete to get the names. Deadline date, there we go. group by the deadline date, and then take the tally again. There we go. And then NA.omit, because that is not an actual date. Excellent. And then I want to call this something. So let's call it due dates. Orange is Pakistan. Afghanistan is also rather dark. Oh yeah, it is. All right. So we're taking the data, we're grouping by the deadline date, we're counting the number of rows per date, and then we are removing NAs. Question about Shiny apps. Things that don't require Shiny server will work. Things that require a Shiny server will not work. So yes, but you're gonna have to do the serverless version of Shiny. All right, so we have our due dates, and then we just need to plot them. GGG plot. That's not an actual thing. And we're going to plot due dates. And we're going to plot on the x-axis. What did I say? The x-axis was going to be the number, right? And then, no. Yes, it was going to be the number, and then the y-axis was going to be the date. And then because this is a time series thing, we're going to want to do a line. Nope, I did it backwards. There we go. So now we can see the coming up deadlines, although looking at this, I can tell that I am looking at the past in addition to the future. So I'm going to do an additional filter so that I'm only looking at the future, because for this particular thing, I don't think it matters if things were due in the past, because we are interested in this little fantasy world I'm building on due dates that are coming up. So it looks like, if I scroll out a bit so we can see the whole figure, it looks like January is gonna be very busy towards the end of January, and then February we've already got a lot of dates, but it looks like late February to March is going to be a little bit less busy. And again, I could make this a lot prettier. I could, add, mousing over so I could see the number. I could add dates down here. They were a little bit easier to read, but we're just doing quick and dirty today. And let me, plot number of bids due per date. There we go. And obviously it's going to take a little bit longer if I am talking and coding at the same time. And then to see a nice finished notebook that I can share, first I want to commit it. So this is going to, when we commit something, we take a copy of the notebook as it currently is and run it top to bottom. So if you have a lot of code that you're running, it might take a little bit, but I can, because it's a separate copy, continue working in here while it's running. And then I'm going to make it public. Whoop. So you guys can check it out if you're interested. And I am going to pick out a couple of examples from today that you guys post in the comments to highlight in the notebook and show tomorrow, just to show people other examples, because it's not, not everyone's going to code exactly like I code. Am I going to discuss scheduling notebooks today? No, we're going to talk about that on Wednesday and Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do interactive stuff. Please Zoom. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and now that it's committed, I can look at version 1 here and open it in a new window, and it should be very beautiful. Again, sort of quick and dirty. Yeah, but there you can see our map and our timeline. that just sort of gives us a quick overview of the information. Bid type, yep, that's absolutely something you could look at. You're welcome to fork it if you're interested. And the first filter in due date. So this just reads in the whole data set. So I say that this is the data that I'm interested in working in. And this filter here looks at the column deadline date, and it finds all the dates that are greater than or after today. This function today and the ability to use arithmetic to compare dates comes from, scroll, this lubridate package here. Actually, let me let you guys look at it for a little bit, which is developed by the RStudio team, and it's really, really handy for working with dates. My Twitter handle is RCTATMAN. So like my Kaggle name, which is RTATMAN, but with a C between the R and the C. And I think it's also on my profile as well, my Kaggle profile. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. Sorry about the difficulty getting set up with the streaming today. That was hopefully less frustrating for you than it was for me, because it was extremely frustrating for me. But tomorrow, everything will be smoother. Just some day one jitters. And we're going to talk more about interactive visualizations. And Sudhansu says, 3 titles you selected, it was random or follows the 3 guidelines you told us about? The 3 visualizations were following the guidelines. So, and it was sort of random which one it is. That's one of where you got to use your your noggin. Will it be about an hour tomorrow? Probably, just because it takes me longer to code when I'm live streaming. But these are recorded, so you can watch them later. The kernel is published, and yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to the rest of the event and checking out what you guys do in your notebooks. And talk to you later. Bye.